The soft ambient hum of a bustling summer afternoon fills the air, punctuated by the distinct rhythmic thud of galloping hooves and the distant polite applause of an exclusive high society crowd. It is the height of the British social season, a time when tradition dictates that the finest attire is paraded under the fickle English sun, and the eyes of the world turn toward the pristine lawns of Berkshire. This is a world built entirely on optics, where a single appearance can validate a legacy and a sudden absence can trigger an avalanche of speculation. As the cameras pan across the grandstands, the air is thick with anticipation, not merely for the sport unfolding on the turf, but for the complex social choreography taking place within the royal enclosures. The grand spectacle of the summer season has always served as a majestic stage, a place where the public looks for continuity, stability, and the reassuring presence of figures who have defined the national fabric for generations. To understand the true weight of these public gatherings, one must look closely at the subtle shifts in attendance, the unspoken agreements, and the careful curation of who is permitted to stand in the direct line of sight. It is an intricate dance of visibility, where every gesture is analyzed, and every smile is measured against the shifting tides of public opinion. Before we dive deeper into the fascinating mechanics of this elite world and uncover the hidden tensions operating just beneath the surface of the grand tapestries, take a moment to subscribe to our channel so you never miss an exclusive deep dive exploration into the lives, secrets, and structural shifts of the world's most prominent families. The nature of modern public life requires a constant balancing act between ancient heritage and contemporary scrutiny, a reality that becomes glaringly apparent when the grand gates of the royal residences swing open for the annual festivities. There is an undeniable magnetism to these events, drawing observers from every corner of the globe who are eager to catch a glimpse of the key figures navigating the heavy burdens of tradition. This year, the atmosphere carries a unique charge, an underlying current of curiosity that extends far beyond the boundaries of the racetrack or the formal reception halls. Experts and seasoned observers note that the composition of the royal gathering this season carries profound implications for the internal dynamics of the institution, serving as a visual barometer for who is currently held in high esteem and who remains operating on the periphery. The presence of core figures provides a sense of reassurance, a visual confirmation that, despite the challenges and the relentless pressures of the modern media landscape, the central pillars of the establishment remain firmly intact. Yet, it is the potential appearance of those who have stepped away from the daily grind of public duties that generates the most intense discussion, raising poignant questions about the true nature of modern duty, family solidarity, and the unspoken rules that govern elite circles. As the afternoon progresses, the conversation naturally turns to the younger generation, those who carry the weight of the future, while navigating the complex realities of their own personal lives. The public has grown accustomed to watching these figures grow, evolve, and adapt to their roles, and their choices regarding when and where to appear are never casual decisions. Each public outing is a carefully calculated statement, a message delivered without words to an audience that is increasingly attuned to the subtle nuances of presentation. The interest surrounding these appearances is not merely a product of idle curiosity. It reflects a deeper, collective fascination with how an ancient institution manages to preserve its mystique while existing in an era of unprecedented transparency. The contrast between the rigid demands of public service and the natural desire for private autonomy creates a permanent state of creative tension, one that is visible in the very posture of those who walk the manicured grounds. Observers point out that the willingness to participate in these grand summer traditions is often a reflection of personal affection for the events themselves, a genuine enjoyment of the vibrant atmosphere that cuts through the stiff formality of official protocol. This personal connection adds a layer of authenticity to the spectacle, allowing the public to feel a fleeting sense of intimacy with figures who otherwise seem to inhabit an entirely different reality. At the same time, the absence of certain family members from the most prominent ceremonial processions does not pass unnoticed, serving as a silent indicator of the ongoing redefinition of roles within the wider family structure. The decision of who receives the formal nod to participate in the most visible aspects of the day's events is a matter of careful deliberation, reflecting the strategic priorities of the leadership and the desire to present a streamlined, focused image to the world. This strategic sorting process, while necessary for the modernization of the institution, inevitably creates an uneasy feeling among those who remember a more expansive, inclusive era. The public is left to decipher the meaning behind these structural choices, wondering whether a particular placement signifies a quiet reconciliation or a firm, polite reinforcement of new boundaries. As the sun begins to cast long shadows across the historic venues, the discussion among commentators deepens, shifting from the immediate glamour of the day to the more grounded, practical realities that dictate the daily lives of these individuals when the cameras are finally turned off. The glamour of the public stage can easily obscure the highly complex, often mundane logistical arrangements that happen behind closed doors, arrangements that are increasingly becoming a matter of intense public debate. In an era where every expenditure is scrutinized and the concept of privilege is constantly re-evaluated, the lifestyle choices of those connected to the grandest houses in the land are no longer shielded from view. The intersection of private life, public perception, and financial sustainability has become one of the most critical challenges facing the modern establishment, a challenge that requires a delicate touch and an acute awareness of the broader social climate. The debate is no longer just about who attends the glamorous summer parties or who wears the most fashionable attire. It has evolved into a much more serious conversation about accountability, fairness, and the changing definition of what it means to be a part of a historic legacy in the 21st century. The subtle shifts in how different family members are positioned, both financially and socially, are starting to come to light, creating a fascinating narrative of contrast and comparison. While some individuals appear to navigate this complex landscape with an effortless, independent grace that wins the admiration of the public, others find themselves caught in a more ambiguous position, balancing between the immense privileges of their heritage and the demands of an independent career. This contrast creates a natural friction, a sense of unresolved tension that keeps the public captivated and ensures that every detail of their domestic arrangements is analyzed for deeper meaning. The story that is unfolding is not just about a single event or a temporary gathering, it is an unfolding drama about how a traditional family adapts to the relentless demands of a modern world that values transparency above all else, setting the stage for a deeper exploration of the hidden dynamics that govern their lives. The illusion of seamless majesty often shatters when the ledger books are opened, revealing the intricate financial scaffolding that sustains a life of unparalleled privilege. For generations, the inner workings of the royal household were shielded from public view, protected by an unwritten agreement that some things were simply too sacred or perhaps too controversial for ordinary eyes. However, the modern era demands an unprecedented level of transparency, and a recent investigation by the National Audit Office has pulled back the heavy velvet curtains, exposing a financial arrangement that has ignited a fierce debate across the nation. At the heart of this controversy is the revelation that King Charles has been utilizing his private income, drawn from the historic repository known as the Privy Purse, to quietly cover the London residential costs for his nieces. Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie. This arrangement was not a recent invention, but rather a legacy established by the late Queen, who sought to ensure that her granddaughters maintained a permanent, secure foothold within the secure perimeters of the royal palaces. Yet, what was once viewed as a grandmother's protective gesture has now transformed into a major public relations headache, raising sharp questions about fairness, accountability, and the true cost of supporting an extended family that sits outside the core circle of working royals. The details contained within the official financial reports paint a vivid picture of a system that operates on an entirely different set of rules than those experienced by the average citizen. Princess Beatrice occupies a grand apartment within the historic walls of St. James's Palace, a residence steeped in centuries of history and located in the very heart of London's most exclusive district. Meanwhile, Princess Eugenie's designated base has been Ivy Cottage, a picturesque property nestled within the highly secure grounds of Kensington Palace. Because these properties are located within actively occupied royal palaces, they require an extraordinary level of security clearance and specialized management, a factor that complicates any straightforward commercial evaluation. The official explanation offered by court insiders suggests that, due to these severe security constraints, which prevent these homes from being placed on the open market, the rent is officially adjusted to roughly 64 to 68% of its actual open market value. To the casual observer, a discount of over 30% on some of the most desirable real estate in the world would seem like an extraordinary privilege in its own right. Yet the reality of the situation goes even deeper. Rather than the princesses paying this significantly discounted rate out of their own pockets, the financial burden is entirely absorbed by the king himself, who quietly liquidates the balance using his private funds. This revelation has caused a profound ripple effect, not only among the public who are currently navigating a challenging economic climate, but also within the wider family network, where comparisons are inevitably drawn between who is supported and who is cast out. The timing of these disclosures is particularly sensitive, occurring against a backdrop of deep familial divisions and highly publicized departures that have fundamentally altered the structure of the monarchy. Critics have pointed out the glaring irony of this arrangement, noting that while some members of the family have been systematically stripped of their official residences and effectively cut off from financial support, others continue to enjoy a cushioned existence funded by the sovereign. The decision to evict the Duke and Duchess of Sussex from Frogmore Cottage, an event that reportedly occurred in the immediate aftermath of the publication of Prince Harry's highly controversial memoir, was defended at the time as a necessary step toward a more streamlined, financially independent monarchy. Rumours have long swirled that Princess Anne was a driving force behind that decisive move, advocating for a strict boundary between those who dedicate their lives to public service and those who choose a different path. For those watching from their distant vantage point in California, the news that the king is footing the bill for Beatrice and Eugenie's London lifestyle must feel like a bitter pill to swallow, fueling a sense of deep resentment over what they perceive as a hypocritical double standard. The concept of a half-in, half-out lifestyle, which was so famously raised during the couple's explosive television interviews, was firmly rejected by the institution when it was proposed by the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, who envisioned a modern compromise where they could pursue commercial enterprises while still representing the crown on select occasions. The institution's firm stance at the time was that such an arrangement was entirely unworkable, a boundary that seemed absolute suit until the financial details of the princess's housing arrangements were brought to light. It is a distinction that court defenders are eager to emphasize, pointing out that Beatrice and Eugenie have never technically sought to be official working royals in the modern sense, nor have they claimed to represent the state on the global stage. They have maintained private careers, with Beatrice working in the corporate and technology sectors and Eugenie pursuing a career in the art world, yet they remain inextricably linked to the physical and financial infrastructure of the monarchy. This ambiguous status creates an uneasy tension as they are effectively private citizens who continue to enjoy the ultimate perk of palatial living without the relentless daily burden of public duty that defines the lives of the core working royals. The debate intensified when commentators began to look closely at the financial capabilities of the princesses' households, noting that Beatrice's husband is a highly successful and wealthy property developer who operates at the highest levels of the international real estate market. This fact has led many to question why a couple with substantial private resources requires financial assistance from the sovereign to cover their housing costs, especially when other senior members of the family are seen to be meeting their own financial obligations out of their designated incomes. The contrast becomes even more pronounced when compared to the arrangements of Prince William, whose substantial rental payments for properties within the royal estate are a matter of public record, funded directly from the revenues generated by the Duchy of Cornwall. This clear separation of personal expenditure and official funding is exactly what the public expects from a modern monarchy, making the subsidized arrangements for non-working family members look increasingly outdated and difficult to defend in the court of public opinion. The growing scrutiny surrounding these housing arrangements reflects a broader, systemic shift in how the public views the institution of the monarchy, where deference has been replaced by a demand for rigorous accountability. The financial entanglement of private family matters with the grand estates of the crown creates a permanent vulnerability, an easy target for critics who argue that the system inherently favors a select few at the expense of transparency. As the discussion deepens, it becomes clear that this is not merely a dispute over rent percentages or security clearances. It is a fundamental debate about the future direction of the family enterprise and the standards of behavior expected of those who carry the royal name. The institution finds itself navigating troubled waters, caught between the desire to maintain traditional family structures and the absolute necessity of appearing fair, modern, and aligned with the values of the public they serve. The contrast between those who independently forge their own paths and those who rely on the quiet generosity of the crown has created a visible fault line, one that threatens to undermine the careful public relations strategy that has been crafted to guide the monarchy into a new era of streamlined efficiency. The resolution of these complex internal tensions will ultimately dictate the long-term survival and relevance of the institution, as it struggles to balance ancient privilege with modern meritocracy. When looking for a blueprint on how to navigate this modern landscape successfully, one name repeatedly emerges as a beacon of clarity and public approval. Zara Tindall, the daughter of the Princess Royal, has long been celebrated as the gold standard for how a member of the extended royal family should conduct themselves in a private capacity. Having never taken an official title or an official state role from birth, she has managed to build an independent, commercially successful life while remaining a deeply loved and effortless ambassador for her family. Her success as an elite equestrian, which culminated in an Olympic medal, provided her with a legitimate, hard-earned platform that owes nothing to court favor and everything to personal dedication. This authentic achievement has allowed her to secure high-profile commercial partnerships and modeling arrangements with prestigious brands that feel entirely appropriate, classy, and aligned with her genuine passions. She stands as a powerful example of a private citizen who respects her heritage without exploiting it, earning her own living while maintaining a flawless public image that brings no controversy to the palace gates. Her active involvement on the Committee of Cheltenham Racecourse further demonstrates this balance, showcasing a commitment to a sport she loves while lending her profile to attract a new generation of enthusiasts to the venue. The public looks at her path and sees a model of modern royalty that works, a sharp contrast to the clumsy, commercially aggressive ventures that have characterized the choices of other family members who have tried to monetize their connections from afar. The lesson of her independent success is one that many believe should have served as an inspiration for the Duchess of Sussex, who instead found herself caught in a cycle of grand expectations and deep public frustration. Rather than finding a natural, authentic rhythm within the British tapestry, the pursuit of commercial ventures in the American market has often taken on a frantic, disconnected quality that fails to resonate with a public that values subtlety and genuine service over superficial branding. The ongoing commentary regarding fashion choices and public presentation is merely a surface-level reflection of this deeper philosophical divide, where the effortless grace of figures like Zara is contrasted with the highly staged, occasionally awkward appearances of those who have stepped away from the fold. The path of commercial independence is fraught with peril, a lesson that Peter Phillips also learned when some of his early business arrangements, including high-profile promotional campaigns in Asian markets and the management of large-scale public celebration events, faced intense media scrutiny. These instances serve as a stark reminder that when private individuals connected to the crown enter the business world, there is always an immediate risk of allegations regarding favored treatment or the exploitation of a non-level playing field. The institution has had to learn hard lessons through these missteps, gradually refining its guidelines to ensure that those who operate in the private sector do so with the highest degree of sensitivity and transparency. Today, Peter Phillips focuses his professional energies on supporting the management of the Gatcombe Park estate, ensis alongside his father, a grounded and practical role that keeps him well away from the volatile world of international commercial endorsements. This evolution in how the family manages its private citizens highlights the growing influence of the Prince of Wales, who is widely understood to favour a much more rigorous, streamlined approach to the family enterprise. As the future monarch looks ahead, he is keenly aware that the court of public opinion is unyielding, and that the continued granting of significant housing discounts and financial subsidies to non-working royals is increasingly unsustainable. The public expects to see a clear line between those who actively perform duties on behalf of the nation and those who pursue private lives, and any arrangement that blurs this line risks creating an uneasy feeling that can erode public trust over time. This changing philosophy suggests that the current housing arrangements for Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie will inevitably have to evolve, as the institution seeks to protect its reputation and align itself with contemporary standards of fairness. The sisters may find themselves looking toward alternative options, such as spending more time at their private properties abroad, including a well-known villa in Portugal, which would allow them to live entirely independent lives away from the intense glare of the London media spotlight. Interestingly, the European continent has also caught the attention of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, with reports suggesting they have acquired a property near that same Portuguese coastal region, utilizing high-end designers to renovate a base that would give them a foothold in Europe. Yet, the question of how these properties are maintained and how the income is generated to sustain such an expansive, multi-continental lifestyle remains a source of endless fascination and speculation for the public. The concept of members of the royal family navigating the modern gig economy, moving from high-paying speaking engagements to complex media production deals, represents a radical departure from traditional notions of dignity and service. It creates a fascinating study in contrasts between those who remain sheltered within the historic walls of St. James's and Kensington Palace under the quiet financial protection of the king, and those who must constantly hustle in the commercial marketplace to fund their independence. The debate over housing arrangements, rental subsidies, and the commercial activities of private family members is not going away. It will remain a central point of discussion as the monarchy continues to modernize its structures. The ultimate goal for the institution is to ensure that its members are seen to be doing the right thing, demonstrating accountability in their financial dealings and a genuine respect for the public that supports them. By elevating figures who model hard work, independent success, and dignified boundaries, while gradually phasing out the outdated perks of an oversized extended court, the family can chart a secure path forward into the future. The grand summer spectacles will continue to draw crowds and celebrate centuries of tradition, but the true strength of the modern monarchy will be measured by its ability to adapt behind the scenes.